how does it change the game if Walmart is involved?
I mean, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for Walmart. I mean, to bring e-commerce into one of the largest attention economy opportunity in the U.S. and perhaps later in the world. So from our perspective, this is a match made in heaven. They started with Jet.com with Mark Lore, and now they're kind of redoing perhaps the Amazon's acquisition of Twitch back in the day, right? So from my perspective, this is following the same playbook. And still, you have to remember that Walmart has less than 10% of e-commerce revenue. So this is a big opportunity for them.
Hey, Rich, you look at this potential deal and what it means for the larger media landscape and also for the other tech giants. To some degree, Google obviously at some point wanted this asset. But I have to assume if you're an Amazon, if you're a Google, if you're an Apple, you actually should probably be rooting for this transaction because at least in the short term, it creates a very compelling argument to tell Washington, stay away from us. There's not a competition problem. Look, Microsoft and Walmart are over there with this big asset that's coming right after us.
Well, and look, and I think the other part of this, Andrew, is you're taking a company that had global scale and you're basically stripping away the rest of the world. I mean, we think ultimately, I'm not even sure Canada, New Zealand, and Australia will go with this asset. It may just end up being a U.S. only sale. And so think about it. You've got Google global, Facebook global. I mean, obviously they're global ex-China, Snapchat, Twitter. All of these companies are truly global and can bring to advertisers global reach and kind of bring to creators, and the app works all over the world. This app is essentially going to only be a U.S. only asset. If I was looking at this competitively at Snapchat or at YouTube, et cetera, I would look at that as a huge win that they're losing global scale. Obviously, some deep-pocketed companies in Microsoft, Walmart, or Oracle. But I have to believe that this is considered a win versus the competitive threat that ByteDance posed as the owner of TikTok.
Adam, you agree with that? This idea that actually it becomes a broken asset?
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. I still think that if we look at Google and Facebook, nearly half of their business is in the U.S. So still, when you look at companies in the U.S. that can create a real alternative for U.S. advertisers, for the advertising community in one of perhaps the most important markets in the world, that is a very scarce resource. It's a very scarce asset. So I still think that if you look at Facebook's market cap, right? So what happens if TikTok becomes half of it? Does it worth $20 to $50 billion? Perhaps it's worth a lot more than that. So from my perspective, I still think that while it's not a global opportunity, it's still massively exciting.
And I wouldn't say broken. I think broken is a strong word.
Right. Rich, though, what do you think of Oracle? We all talk about Walmart and Microsoft because to some degree, maybe that's the more exciting just from a brand name and what a partnership like that looks like, both because it could either work very well or terribly in the soap opera that will be unto itself. But what do you think about the prospect of Oracle as a buyer?
Look, I think the challenge that this asset posed is that you needed to be a tech company. I mean, it's very clear that the Trump administration made it clear that they wanted a tech company to buy this and one that had the resources, not just to buy it, but to invest in it and to make sure that it was safe and secure, that they could handle the transfer of the code base over to the U.S. So this really required companies that could move very quickly, that had tons of cash sitting around, that could close and execute a transaction of this scale. And honestly, I think there aren't a lot of companies beyond Microsoft and Oracle that had that possibility that weren't all of the regulatory issues. I think it's sort of sad that, there's a lot of media companies that you would have thought would have wanted this, but I just don't think that fit into what the Trump administration wanted, nor do I think those companies, whether it's a Disney or a Comcast, this is just not the type of acquisition that they do.